Hey guys, KG Games here. 2023 will go down as one of the best years ever for gaming, from giant RPGs to remakes and sequels to some of the greatest games ever. And I just wanted to share my top 10 list for the games of 2023. Now keep in mind, I buy and play a lot of games, but I bought nowhere near all the games that came out this year, so there will be some obvious ones missing, but I probably will buy at a later date. If I were to make this video like a year or two from now, the list would probably look different, but yeah, let's get to it. Number 10, Hi-Fi Rush, a game that came out of nowhere. It was revealed back in January by like a Xbox showcase, I think, and then it just immediately shadow dropped the same day on the Game Pass. Developed by Tango Gameworks, Hi-Fi Rush is a game where you play as a character named Kai who accidentally gets an MP3 player embedded inside his chest by an error, and it allows him to fight to the rhythm of the music. Now the combat is kind of hard to explain. Like, you just start mashing some combos with like X and Y, and a circle closes in and you gotta time the circle correctly. Hard to explain, but yeah, that's just how it works. And then the cel-shaded graphics they use make this game look amazing and will hold up forever, and the cutscenes and characters just make this game feel like a cartoon from the 2000s that you would watch. Number 9, Forza Motorsport. Is there anything I really need to say that you guys don't know about this game or this series? It is just the latest entry into simulation style games for Forza, and everything is just perfect, from the graphics to the weather effects to the sound of the cars. It's just the best simulation racing game out there right now. I put this on the list because it's a game that I'll keep going back to, just keep on playing for years to come until the next one comes out. Number 8, Super Mario RPG. This is a remake of an SNES game. I never played the original, so I wasn't sure how a Super Mario game would translate to an RPG. And I was definitely surprised by how wonderful it is. The story starts out with you have to save Princess Peach from Bowser like any other Mario game, but I won't say any more because it becomes a little more than that later on in the game. The gameplay is similar to early Final Fantasy games, as it was developed by Square Enix, and the difficulty is just right in my opinion. You may have to grind a little, but not too much, and there's also an easy mode in case you're terrible at RPGs. But my biggest gripe about this game is the lack of voice acting in a full price game. It only gets a little bit of a pass because it's an SNES game, but still, it just feels really outdated without the voice acting. Number 7, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. After the developers of Friday the 13th game were forced to stop supporting the game due to licensing issues from a legal battle, I've been waiting years for a replacement for that game, and stuff like Predator's Hunting Grounds and Ghostbusters and Evil Dead just don't hit the same, and all of those games flopped. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre is definitely the best thing we're getting in terms of Friday the 13th replacements. It's a 3v4 asymmetrical game with 3 killers and 4 victims. The 4 victims must gather materials and figure out a path to escape through the multiple pathways there are. The 3 killers must obviously kill them before they can escape. The killers can do stuff like feed Grandpa blood they get through doing damage, or find buckets of blood on the ground so Grandpa can help expose where they're hiding, and can set up traps. The game requires a lot of communication. Even if one teammate doesn't have a mic, then you're at a disadvantage. Unfortunately, the developers were only able to get the rights to the original movie, but at least they have the rights to the best movie in the franchise. One of the maps is even a complete recreation of that movie, and is my favorite map to play on. And the good news is the developers said themselves, this game won't suffer from the same fate Friday the 13th did in terms of licensing issues. This is a game I would definitely keep going back to for years to come, as they will keep adding more maps and characters. Number 6, Dead Island 2. I don't even know where to start with this game. The original Dead Island on Xbox 360 is still one of my favorite games ever, and I can't believe I had to wait almost 10 years for this game to come out. I remember I was in middle school when I watched the original trailer come out, and was so hyped with my friends thinking it would come out soon. But nope, we had to wait till I was 22 years old. I used to search Dead Island 2 update on YouTube so frequently for many years, just hoping this game was still alive. And when I finally got my hands on it, it did not disappoint. First, the game launched very polished. I had a feeling it was going to be broken at launch, but nope. And the graphics are almost stunning to look at, the perfect blend of realism and cartoon. The story was funny in my opinion the first couple of hours, but its humor kind of overstayed its welcome after a while. And the gameplay is nothing complex, which makes it very easy to go back to after long breaks. Basically the same gameplay as the original Dead Island. And my favorite map of the game, and the part where the game really shines in my opinion, is Venice Beach. Such a fun and beautiful location setting in a video game, and they've done an excellent job with it. Lots of space to explore and discover, and lots of side quests. My last thing I want to say about this game is, why is it only 3-player co-op? You're telling me the Xbox 360 can handle 4-player co-op, but the PS5 can't? Oh yeah, and the last thing I want to say is, the developers said this game sold very well and exceeded expectations, so that means we will probably get a Dead Island 3 one day. In probably like 10 years. Number 5, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. For the past 10 to 15 years, 2D Mario games outside of Mario Maker have gotten really stale and felt like they were making the same exact game over and over again. I really didn't know what to think about this game when it was announced at a Nintendo Direct, but when I started playing it, the first thing you notice is the visuals and art style is beautiful and very unique, and is one of the best looking Switch games. It's crazy how much Nintendo is still able to get out of a system that's basically 2015 hardware. The game controls perfectly, and every level feels different, which was a problem with the recent 2D Mario games. And I never get tired of the Wonder Flowers addition to the game, where the game levels change up and the graphics become very trippy looking. The match system is a very welcome feature as well. There are many to choose from, like an example, one lets you float mid-air for a second, and the other will let you semi-wall climb, and the music is very catchy and fits every level you play on. Even though it's a very late lifespan release for the Switch, it will definitely go down as one of the best exclusives on the system. Number 4, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now I have to say, I'm not the biggest fan of most Zelda games. It even took me multiple years to finally appreciate Breath of the Wild. I really only bought this game at launch just because of the hype for it was crazy and it was taking over the internet, and I'm glad I did. Being able to go up to the Sky Islands for a new chest or a new puzzle and then just jump back down to Hyrule completely seamless with no load screens or hiccups is a crazy achievement. That shows once again Nintendo using the 2015 hardware to its absolute fullest. The new ability, Ultra Hand, is by far my favorite ability in both this game. Being able to craft your own boat or vehicle, or even just use it to throw TNT at an enemy and shoot an arrow at it. There are so many things you can do with this ability, and the fuse ability never gets old either. Just being able to grab a rock or something and attach it to any weapon you want and have it do more damage. This game, just like Breath of the Wild, for me, is just a create your own adventure game, and it's perfect at it. I don't see myself actually ever beating this game unless I someday do everything there is to do on the map and play this game with headphones on, because not much games do audio better than this. The game is at its best when it comes to audio. It is completely immersive. It is so good just listening to the wilderness of this game when there's no enemies around, or when the game is finally not raining for once. The audio starting to pick up a little more when an enemy is around is always scary. It makes me just want to hop on my horse and run. Tears of the Kingdom just expands on everything Breath of the Wild did, and is a game everyone must play at some point, and is most people's game of the year for a very good reason, and I can see why. Number 3, Final Fantasy XVI. Probably the most hated game on this list, but Final Fantasy XVI is a masterpiece and takes the series to a new era with its jaw-dropping graphics, perfect gameplay, and engaging story. Not going to talk about the story for spoiler reasons, but It's excellent and has lots of big twists and turns like you'd expect with this type of game. Wasn't sure how I'd feel about this Game of Thrones type of setting for a Final Fantasy game, but it definitely grew on me over time. The character you play as, Clive Rossfield, is definitely one of the coolest designed characters for me and has the perfect blend of edgy and Final Fantasy vibe. Definitely looks like you could put him like in a Devil May Cry game or something. He fit perfectly in it. And let's not forget, Torgal is the cutest and goodest boy in the game. My one gripe about this game is the lack of party in this game. I like hearing everybody talk to each other in RPGs, but in here it's mainly just Clive and Jill, and obviously the dog, but yeah, I mean, like, you do have some other people join you every once in a while, but for the most part, it's just Clive and Jill. Now, the graphics in this game, this has to be top 3 or top 1 best looking games on PS5 right now. Almost every time I was on the edge of a building or mountain, I would just walk up to it and take a screenshot on my PS5, and I absolutely love the combat in this game. They went full on Devil May Cry here, and I don't mind it. Feels like a improved version of Devil May Cry 5 combat, but with a Final Fantasy twist. And every boss fight in this game is just insanity. I can't tell you how locked in I would be when I was in a boss fight. Some people were reporting that the boss fights were melting the inside of their PS5s, and I would believe it just because of how graphically intense they were. And there's just so many side quests and missions and content I still need to go back to and complete. You can definitely get 100 hours out of this game with DLC out soon. It will just keep expanding on that content and the lore in the world of Clive. Number 2, Resident Evil 4 Remake. I had no idea how Capcom would already make a perfect game even better, but Capcom doing what Capcom does, they somehow made a perfect game even more perfect. I was going to put this game at number 3 and Final Fantasy 16 at 2, but I changed my mind because I will be constantly replaying this classic for years to come, like I do with Resident Evil 2 Remake. Now, my biggest problem with the original is the gameplay doesn't age the best, and the gameplay here has been redone, and the controls just like the other 2 remakes they've done, and kept all the cool moves that Leon would do, like a roundhouse kick or a German suplex. This game is way darker and scarier than the original, but if you play the original, it's probably not that scarier because you kind of know what's going to happen next for the most part. Ashley is way better and less annoying in this game, and is a more likable character. It feels like you are actually protecting her instead of babysitting her. Capcom does a better job at explaining the story and what's going on, way better than the original, even though the story was never super complex to begin with. We also got the Separate Ways DLC redone a few months after release, and it feels like a mini expansion to Resident Evil 4 Adventure. But for me, this is just a one and done playthrough for me. I can't wait to see what Capcom does next with these Resident Evil remakes. Do they actually remake 5 and 6, even though those games are somewhat recent and were Xbox 360 games? Or do they remake the original again? Or do they go back to Code Veronica? I hope they do all 3, and I hope we can get a completely brand new Resident Evil game with the same gameplay style as these remakes. Number 1, Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is nothing short of spectacular. It is how I picture what a perfect Spider-Man game or Marvel game should be. The opening to this game, it has to be one of the best opening levels to a video game ever, with Peter and Miles swinging across the bridge to a new section of the map and fighting Sandman that is the size of a building in New York, and was jaw-dropping watching them playing for the first time. The graphics are breathtaking, like you'd expect with this game when you're on top of a building, or just web slinging. The web slinging of this game never gets old, and they found a way to improve it with stuff like gliding and even doing 360s with the web if you hold R2 and are going fast. The gameplay is mostly the same, with new finisher animations mixed with some old ones. Also, the new moves you have, like symbiote powers, which I like way more of the Iron Spider moves. They nailed how Venom should be in Spider-Man movie or game. Venom felt and looked very threatening, vicious, and scary. The only complaint I really have are most of the suits for Miles are pretty terrible. And for Peter, the only good new suit they added was the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit. And also the Platinum trophy in this game is very easy, which I like. I'll keep grinding through it over time and eventually get the Platinum trophy. And yep, it's my #1 game of 2023. If you guys made it to this part, thank you for watching. This is my first time making a video like this. Obviously, there are many great games I missed, like Alan Wake 2 or Baldur's Gate 3. I'm sure those games would have been on the list if I bought them, but I'll buy them at a later date when I see them on sale. But yeah, like I said earlier in the video, if I were to like remake this list like in a couple of years, this list would probably look different. But yep, see you guys later.